today's video is going to be all about Mercury retrograde and why that's important. Alright, so I'm actually filming this video during what is called a pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde. Alright, so usually it's the most intense, and this is when, a lot of people that watch tarot and things like that on YouTube, that's why a lot of them, they're having problems and the video is not recording. And like, for example, you'll listen to a reading or you'll listen to something on YouTube and they say, well, I've recorded this 3 times and I just can't make it work. That's because they don't understand the cycles. So first of all, what is Mercury? So Mercury is the planet of communication. And some people, when it comes to this subject, they just think it's hilarious. They don't understand that everything is interconnected. And, the sun gives life to everything. So if you think the sun gives life to everything, but no other planet in the solar system has a meaning, then you're sadly mistaken. So basically, Mercury retrograde is when Mercury itself appears to move backwards. And so what it's really doing is not moving backwards, that's more of an illusion. What it's doing, it's slowing down so everybody can catch up. Because Mercury is a very fast, paced planet. So meaning that its orbit around the sun is, 3 times as fast as all other planets, as opposed to outer planets like Jupiter that takes a very long time. And those of you that understand astrology know that it takes a long time for, say, Jupiter and Saturn to complete a full orbit around the sun. Alright, so Mercury, people that are ruled by Mercury are Geminis and Virgos. And Geminis, they're known as, really, really fast. They talk fast. A lot of people don't trust them. I'm a Gemini myself. A lot of people don't trust them because they talk so fast, and it comes off as like mysterious, or it comes off as like, you need to watch out for this person. It's not about that. And Mercury is also known as the trickster. Okay, so a lot of times these things that happen during Mercury retrograde, it can be hilarious depending on how you're looking at it. Like, you get in, your car is running fine, the day before, then you get in, it's not running. So that could be one thing. Or you go to put it in drive, and then you realize that the gear shift is in D3. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen, but it affects us. All the planets affect us. It's just the way it is. People don't look into it, and then they just make these silly assumptions. I seen a person not too long ago, they said astrology was stupid. And, I looked at their profile and they were having hot dog eating contests. So that, it makes you wonder why they don't, why they think astrology is stupid, because they're sitting there playing, dumbass games. So it's, it takes somebody that really, studies it and really has an interest to understand it. And I've been studying astrology myself since I was about 6 years old. My younger sister, she's older than I am, but she's the youngest before me. So she got me into it, and I've been into it, and and I'm in my 30s now. So I've been studying a long time, and it means something to me. So, all right. So I want to express very much how, when you're looking at, like, you're looking at these reports and stuff online, or you see these memes that talk about Mercury retrograde, and they'll say, oh, it's going to start on this date. First of all, everything is a process. So Mercury retrograde has a pre-shadow phase, as I said in the beginning of the video, and it also has a post-shadow phase. Those are usually the strongest during the cycle. So when you have these astrologers, or most astrologers, they kind of know what they're talking about. But if you have tarot readers or people like that don't necessarily understand, and I'm not condemning these people, they just they don't understand it completely, and they kind of they go by what they read and things like that, and a lot of people miss those key points. But it's important and very imperative for people to understand that, because when pre-shadow starts, it's the worst. So you can have all kinds of things happening, and then you're missing all the lessons, or you're missing what you need to know about what's happening. A lot of people have wrecks and everything else during those, during the very first part of Mercury retrograde, and also in the end of it. So nothing ever just starts. Everything's a process. If your nails are growing, it takes a long time for your nails to grow, and they, like people say, well, my nails grew quick, and sometimes it seems like it happened overnight. But it's not that. There was a process involved in everything you do. It doesn't matter what you do. There's a process of going to work. There's a process of me shooting this video. It's just the way it is. So Mercury rules all of communication. So people think, oh, communication, that's us, talking, amongst each other. No. When I say communication, I mean communication on a very wide perspective. And what I'm saying, what I mean by that is, I'm talking about communication from your brain. The communication or the signal that your brain sends to your hand and says, hey, when you're trying to move your hand, I'm talking about, like, cell phones. I'm talking about your car. What the engine tells the car to do, what the transmission tells the rest of the vehicle to do. It involves everything. It's so big, and people have not really understood so much about it. So, for example, I used to take care of my dad, before he passed away, and I would notice, he was someone that had a lot of strokes, and I would notice every single time that Mercury retrograde come around, it was so much worse for him. Like, his symptoms would come back, or it would bring something back from the past. And I've always kind of joked and told people that Mercury retrograde it's not so bad, because it's like stepping into a time machine. At this time, you might find yourself, talking to people that you hadn't seen since high school, or you might find yourself watching shows that you hadn't watched since you were a kid. It's all about revisiting the past and going back and learning something, or maybe revisiting a situation that you didn't learn everything about it. So you go back, and that's why it brings back exes and people like that, because your exes, they're going through it too. They're thinking about you, or they're having memories of the past, and then they're like, oh, I'm going to contact that person. So the key word, communication. So they contact you during a communication cycle. Now, if Mercury didn't exist, we wouldn't have our brains, we wouldn't be able to speak, we wouldn't be able to do anything. I remember looking at Helen Keller's chart when I was younger, and in her chart she had a lot of issues when it comes to Mercury, and that's why she had problems with her hearing and her speech, because it was set up that way. That's something she chose before she came here. And when I say she chose before she came here, I mean on a soul level. I don't mean on the actual individual or the person. And so that's another topic that I will delve into later. But so, what else does Mercury, I had to write some notes because there's a lot to this. So, delays, electronics. So, for example, you're trying to hang your phone up. All right, so you're talking on your phone to your friend, and you try to hit, end, and the phone keeps going. And then you realize you put the phone in your pocket, and you think, oh, it's over. And the person hears everything you say. God forbid you say anything bad about them behind their back, because then you're going to get caught. And so that allows, like for that situation, that allows for someone else to see what's really going on. They get to revisit, or they get to see an aspect of yourself that they haven't seen before. You also might see a lot of people being more critical at this time, or say their shadow self appearing. One thing I've noticed is, I've been around people that, during when retrograde is direct, they seem like upstanding people or whatever. But then when it goes, retrograde, they become people that you're not used to seeing, or you've never seen before. It's like a whole different person. That's because it's basically going inward. So it's directing the energy inward. So you're seeing a part of them that's usually hidden from the world. All right. So again, it's like stepping to a time machine. So with everybody in here that watch this video and see this video and say, oh my God, I hate Mercury retrograde. You're looking at it from one angle. Try to see it from a different perspective. Write down, take a piece of paper and write down the pros and cons of Mercury retrograde. What good happened? Did I enjoy myself? Did me and my husband, or and I don't mean my husband, nothing like that, but it could be a female or whatever. And she could say, well, me and my husband, we went and we went to a place that when we were first married, and we had another honeymoon or whatever. It could be many different things like that. And again, so communication affects the whole body. So it's not just, my phone ain't working, or the computer got stuck, or the transmission ain't working. It can also point to problems, say like with a vehicle. So like your vehicle might be running fine, and then all of a sudden the vehicle starts, the transmission starts slipping. It may not do it when the planet is actually direct, but it'll do it during retrograde, because what it's doing, it's showing you that there's something that's eventually it's going out. There's a problem there that you wasn't paying attention to, or you didn't see it. So what it's doing, it's slowing down the energy so that you can see what's going on. Like and so think about that. If your car starts slipping or anything, I don't wish that upon anybody, but if it does, it's probably something that's already happened, and it was because it was so fast before, you just you didn't see it. So it gives you a chance to revisit that and look at that and see things that you didn't see before. A lot of people, especially depending on what sign it is at the time, I haven't looked to see what it's retrograding in right now, the planet, but sometimes it will retrograde, say, in like the element of water. and that can really be, have an emotional toll on you, because like if you're around people that take things the wrong way, or didn't hear you properly, or something like that, it can really, there's been times during Mercury retrograde cycles that I just, it was so traumatic, because emotionally it was hard to withstand everything that was going on. People taking things the wrong way, they saying mean things to you, their shadow selves are showing, your shadow self is showing, and so there's so many things could happen. Again, I'll go back to my dad, with the strokes. When you think about like what happens when people have strokes, the blood flow, it's not flowing correctly. So it shows, because Mercury rules the brain, the arms, the hands, the lungs. All of those problems can come up, and depending, like I said, which element it appears in. Like for example, say that you had a relationship with a water sign, say a Pisces or a Cancer or a Scorpio. You haven't seen them in 10 years. If it's in that element, there's a good chance that you're going to have those people coming back. Not just any ex, it'll be those with those particular, those elements in their charts. And I don't mean just the sun sign. I mean, it could be, they could be a Leo sun, but they could also have, say like a Pisces moon sign, so it can bring them back. Something else I'm going to point out in this video too, and a lot of, not so much as astrologers, but a lot of tarot readers are not understanding. When they're doing readings and things like that, a lot of people are noticing reconciliation, or the past, returning. So that's an indication that you're in a return cycle. And I've seen some people that, they don't realize that right now we're also in Venus retrograde. So Venus is the planet of love, and it deals with money and things that you love and cherish. So, for example, it rules Taurus and Libra. So you will probably notice, if you pay attention to astrology, you will notice that those people are coming back around to communicate with you at this time. So, I've already had like one Taurus come back and try to talk to me, and it just, again, it showed me that, that was not something I need to revisit. But, when it comes to astrology and the planets, get your head out of the clouds. For you people that are not looking any further than the surface, or the shiny cars that you see outside, or the music that you're listening to, or what this person's doing on TV, all those are distractions. Get your head out of the clouds and actually study something, and do something with your life, and actually use these cycles to your advantage, because it's not like with retrograde, it's not just a good and bad thing. It can help you do things, or people just see it as one side, like, they'll see it as bad, and I can't stand this, and I can't stand this cycle. And I'm not saying anything bad about these people. It's not, I'm not here to condemn you. I'm just, very passionate about trying to get you to think about things, and, just consider that before you say this ain't real, or this ain't this. I mean, it always bothers me when people would look at me and think I'm crazy because they haven't studied what I studied. You need to actually study what I studied before you start passing judgments on me, because you don't get it, you don't understand it, So you can't just say, like me, do you really think that I've been studying that long and can't prove what I'm talking about? But if you're not open to, hearing it, seeing it, believing it, it's not even about believing it. All you got to do is watch. If you don't believe in Mercury retrograde, if you think that's, total bullshit, and you're sitting there laughing at me, once you watch this video, if you watch this video, if you come across it on YouTube, I invite you to sit there and do a science experiment. Go, start at this cycle, or start at, another cycle, and wait for it to come back around. And during that time, just take notes. Be like, all right, so have I had any problems with my phone? Has Facebook been messed up? Is Instagram down? Or is all the social media down? I remember the last retrograde, one thing I noticed is people was talking about timelines merging and changing. But the people that, said this, that did the memes, they were listing Mercury retrograde symptoms. And I'm like, you're confusing people. That's misinformation, because they don't even know. They're sitting there, wishing upon a cloud, or, whatever, living in a dream, and they think that this is happening because they're seeing their computer freeze up, or whatever. They think, oh, this is the time slowing down. It's Mercury retrograde, man. That's what it is. If you know astrology, if you know your stuff, you're gonna know. And I hope that this actually helps people, kind of look at things from a different perspective. I am kind of critical sometimes, because I've had so much criticism directed at me for the things that I know are true. And, that's the thing about belief. It's not about belief. some things just are. And I said this when I was working at this one place. The guy there, he always, argued with me about everything. And I sat there and watched him, during the retrograde cycle. I watched his vehicle mess up. I watched his communication be messed up, and he still didn't see it. And that's because he wasn't conscious of it. He wasn't aware of it. He wasn't ready to learn that and learn that truth yet. But it's not always about believing. You don't. Sometimes people say, you have to see it to believe it. But I don't care if you admit it to yourself or if you, stand in the mirror and say it, behind closed doors or whatever. But I'm not, it's not about being right. It's not about anything like that. It's about actually looking at what's happening. And, if you actually, write this down and actually, do an experiment for yourself to see, what's going on, you might actually, learn something, and it might actually help you because, if you're planning a trip or whatever to the past, like say your childhood home and you got to fly, you might want to know about these cycles because I'm going to tell you what, if it were, this basically governs all of communication. So if you get on a plane, you got to deal with everybody that, everybody on Earth that is affected by this energy, and they're all going to be governed by it. And it doesn't matter if they believe it or not, it's not about that. But I mean, their plane could malfunction. I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but at least one thing you're going to notice is delays. And sometimes those delays, like at an airport, they're going to be because the pilot wasn't, he arrived late, or he had an appointment that he didn't know about, or, something is wrong with the plane and it wouldn't start up the right way, or there could be a malfunction. There's always something. But it's not about the negative aspects. It's about looking at it from a healthy medium, neutral, and seeing it for what it is. And it like I said, if it didn't slow down, and we didn't have this cycle about 3 or 4 times a year, then people couldn't catch up with us. We wouldn't be able to catch up because Mercury is fast. It was a Greek god, and Mercury could move real fast. That's what the Greeks believed, and they were right about a lot of stuff. Because I can tell you, being a Gemini, like I said before in the video, we can talk fast, we can move fast, we get things done. We don't like things in our way, and that's usually for the the June Geminis, because that's what I say. You have to, like, when it comes to dealing with signs, you usually have 3 different areas. When it comes to it, and you'll have 3 different types. And so, for example, when it comes to Gemini, like I'm born on June 9th, so I'm right in the middle of all of it. Okay, so I'm full-fledged Gemini. But you'll have May-born Geminis that have more Taurean energy and more Arian energy. And then you'll have, at the end of the month, you'll have more Cancer, like Gemini going into Cancer. So you have a Gemini-Cancer cusp, or like I said in the beginning, you'll have the Taurus-Gemini or Termini cusp. And so those people will resemble those traits. And so, like with the Taurian trait in the Gemini on that cusp, those people are a lot more slower in the mind. They're more grounded. They can't handle as much air, ideas, information as more of the middle-born Geminis can. So, and that's basically my perspective on Mercury retrograde. And I hope this helps. And I just want to remind everybody to like, share, and subscribe. And check out my description. Check out the description box in the video. I have some links in there for Facebook, Instagram, and the donation link if you feel like that you like my work and you want to see me continue doing it. So this is metaphysics, and that's my perspective. Thank you.